This is the Literacy Mindset Podcast, where education leaders discuss identifying and removing phonological barriers with Mindplay's CEO, Jeff Pendleton.
Okay, everyone, welcome back. Very excited for another episode in our mini-series edition, Oklahoma mini-series. I have my guest today, Michelle Brumley, who is the principal at Choteau Middle School in Choteau Public Schools. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah, well, I hope so. I'm excited to talk about the things that you have going on and some interesting stuff to talk about across the state, things that are happening, literacy and intervention and all of the fun stuff that we got to talk about. Let's start a little bit first with some context. Tell us a bit about how you got to where you're at right now as the principal of the middle school in Choteau.
Okay. Well, I have just finished my 18th year here in Choteau.
Okay.
I grew up in Mustang, Oklahoma. And so I was actually working in El Reno, Oklahoma. And the lady who had been my assistant superintendent came out here because she got hired as a superintendent. And so we had already gone back to school, but she called me and said, "Hey, I need you out here. And before you tell me no, please just come look at it." So I said, okay. So, load up my two daughters. We come out here and I'm just, I don't know. But my oldest daughter just loved it because, it's a very small town and Mustang is not. And she's like, "Oh, look, you can walk places here. You can have your backpacking." She would just fell in love with it. So that's how I ended up here. That superintendent's not here anymore, but I still am. So that's how I ended up here.
You still are. Okay. So that's a bit of time, 18 years now that you've been there. Small town.
Yes.
So district has less than 1,000 students in it. How about in your building?
I have anywhere from 233 to 245-ish.
Okay. That's a very precise window, which you've got this locked and loaded to 233 to 245. Okay. So a couple hundred students there, grades
5 through 8.
Grades 5 through 8. Okay. And you kind of sit on a campus where there are multiple buildings, but try and make the transition between buildings as easy as possible within that same campus. So
yes. Classic
small town Oklahoma school district. If you're asking me, and I've driven through lots of small towns in Oklahoma, covering the state for many years. Excellent. Well, let's talk a little bit about some of the things that you have going on. So, literacy wise, you have core curriculum. Is that a curriculum that you mostly decide, or is that something that you get handed to you from the district level? Like how does the core ELA curriculum get decided?
Well, we actually let all of our teachers go to the caravan. They get to go listen. They get to get all the samples, and then they get to vote on which curriculum they want. With the caveat being, if you don't participate in anything, you don't get to vote. You have to have actively
to have an informed vote.
Yep. Yes. And so they actually vote on it. And then whatever they decide is what we get.
Okay. And so as you think about the grade levels, 5th through 8, one of the things that we talk about a lot on this show is the challenges of intervention, and in particular, early foundational skills, right? Your average 6th, 7th grade teacher, even if they're an ELA teacher, isn't necessarily trained in, phonics or phonological production. So what do you guys do? How do you think about that? Do you have interventionists? Do you more rely on technology or just teacher tools? Kind of walk us through what it is that you do to address some of those challenges, or do those challenges not exist in your building?
Well, I would like to tell you that they don't, but they do. And so, being a small school, you got to be resourceful.
Right.
So we at the middle school, we don't get reading interventionists, we don't have any of that type of thing. And so, like you said, I might have English teachers, yes, but at the secondary level, they are not trained how to teach students to read. They can tell you there's a problem, but they don't know what to do about it. And so we have put in an hour every day that we focus on remediation, whether that be reading, whether it's grade level, they're not mastering their common formative assessments. And so we do kind of do a hybrid of in-person and using technology. And so some of the stuff, especially if it's a common formative assessment, they do get pulled out. They're actually retaught and reassessed. But in reading, like I said, I don't necessarily have a building full of people who know what to do to solve the problem. And so we do use technology for that. When we start out with an assessment, and it'll tell us, what do they need? Is it a visual? Is it a tracking problem? Is it vocabulary? Is it just, hey, they need to work on reading more often because they're at a third grade level and they're in fifth grade, and so then that's kind of what we base everything on. And then the teachers in the classroom are all able to monitor that, whether they know how to teach a child to read or not, because it's all automatically built into the program that we're using.
Got it. Makes sense. And then what does sort of PD look like? Is there a lot of emphasis on science of reading in the state of Oklahoma? Do you focus on that with fifth through eighth grade teachers, or is that just something that you say, we worry about that in the lower grades, and then we do the best we can when we get them here?
Well, there's definitely a focus on it in the state of Oklahoma, and it's definitely at the lower grades. And so they did just put out this summer that they are actually doing a training specific for fifth through eighth grade, through eighth grade. And so, I'm trying to get my teachers to do some training on that. And I've had in the past, they've done letters training, not the newest version, but the oldest version, so in the past, yes, they have done that and done some training, but, PD specific for reading, even at our level being offered for my level of teachers to go to has pretty much been non-existent. And so I was happy to see this summer that they have put some of that together to help. It's basically just been stuff that we've been able to do here on our own at the school.
Got it. Okay. Well, that's great. Let's talk a little bit about something that you probably start to see in the early part of fifth grade, and then it maybe gets a little bit stronger through eighth grade. But, this Gen Z side of the world in which everything is 144 characters or less. How do you guys bridge the gap, or how do you, walk the fine line of academic language? How do you make sure that they know that when most kids want to speak in, one or two letter words, let alone full sentences?
Well, we do several things, just because the, students we have here, we all have a lot of low socioeconomic students. So vocabulary is definitely not their strong point to begin with. So even just in the regular classrooms, we really hone in and work on teaching the academic vocabulary, just part of the core curriculum. And then whenever we set our goals for the year, well, of course, I don't just arbitrarily do that and say, hey, here's what we're doing. And so this past year, I really wanted to work on summarizing, because that was something I noticed in fifth through eighth grade, they were really struggling with. It didn't matter. And so that's what I wanted to do. And so my teachers were like, no, we need to go back down to complete sentences. And so I thought they were crazy. And I told them, but that's what they wanted. So that's what we did. And so we did our SMART goal for that. And so we came up with Well Said Wednesday. And so that means on Wednesday, no matter what class you are in, no matter what the content is, you are writing and speaking in complete sentences. Like, we are looking for that. We're paying attention for that. And, not that I want the history teacher teaching, run on sentences, comma, splices, anything like that. We're pretty basic. Capital letter, in punctuation, complete thought. But we focused on that hard this year. And interestingly enough, it was actually one of my history teachers who said, you would not believe what a difference that made in what they were able to write whenever they had a writing assignment at the end of the year. And so sometimes it's just, even though those are kindergarten and first grade standards,
Right.
it's not because the kindergarten and first grade teacher didn't teach them. It's because, like you said, it's because the world they live in, their cell phones, their TikToks, their Twitter, whatever. And so the other thing we did this past year is they cannot have any personal technology whatsoever.
Oh,
Not that they get to keep it and it's supposed to be turned off in their bag. They literally, the second they walk in the door, they give it to us and they don't get it back till the end of the day. We keep it locked up in the office. And so that's also made a tremendous difference just in them having to speak to each other. That's like a lost art, and we were starting to have, as far as discipline goes, discipline problems that we hadn't seen in years, but it's because they were having to learn and how to interact with other people and not just sit there at lunch on their cell phone the whole entire time and not talk to anybody.
I
So,
see.
that's a couple of things we focused on this past year that I think had also helped.
How did that come about? Was that well received by the community? Was it a vote?
Yes.
Did you just say like, this is what we're doing and you guys deal with it? And how are people responding to it 1 year in?
Well, it's something that we had wanted to do. And so there was another district close by that had done it. And so we started tossing the idea around. So what we did in the summer is we had the counselors call all the parents. Are you in favor of this or are you not? And so parents were overwhelmingly in favor of it. And
Really?
so the board passed the policy, and really it's one of the few things that, the kids didn't balk it or fight it at all, but I think it's because they knew it was one of those things that they couldn't pit the parents against the school, because the school and the parents were both in favor of it.
They were a little bit
had to
aligned,
resign themselves to
outnumbered.
the fact that it was happening. But yeah, no, our community was overwhelmingly in favor of it.
It's interesting because I feel like I have two teenage daughters, and I feel like amongst their friends, they all ask. They'd say they would like it to be that case. It's just like, just remove the burden from me. Interesting how you guys are able to do that.
Well, and it did. The kids ended up liking it because you don't realize, kids have so much anxiety and things these days, but it's because they're constantly bombarded. They don't ever get a break. They can't ever turn anything off. And
parents are texting them in the middle of the day.
And just stuff like taking pictures of someone at lunch and put it on Snapchat, just all those types of things they used to have to deal with, all this online bullying or whatever, it just kind of took that all out of the picture. And so
that's awesome. I love hearing that. And it's great to hear that it's been so successful as well as you think about that. What about another somewhat hot topic, and that's libraries? Do you guys still have a library? Do you think about how do you use the library to sort of engage the culture of literacy in your building?
Yeah. Well, interestingly enough, I only had a school library for about 6 or 7 years. And before that, we would always have to go over to the high school library if we wanted to use the library at all. And so it was kind of when COVID hit, that worked out really well for me because I had a lot of Title I funds left. And so I was able to use a lot of that on building my library. And so when we very first started, it was literally, I had to get elementary, what will you let me have? High school, what will you let me have? And then just going through the school and taking everything. Oh, this is sitting in this room. So we might have had stuff from 1920s, 1950s. And so that really let us build up our library to things that, kids actually want to read. And so we try really hard to encourage a love of reading. Not that everything is like, oh my gosh, my English teacher is forcing me to read this. I hate it. And so we really try to encourage a love of reading.
Okay.
And so my librarians are really good at coming up with activities like genre bingo. And it's totally voluntary. If you want to do it, you go get the bingo card and you have to read all these different genres until you get a bingo. And so we also have a book vending machine because books are expensive and a lot of our kids can't afford to buy books. And so, if you win that, you get a coin for the book vending machine and they get to keep those books. They don't have to give them back. So we do take throughout the entire school year, we always let kids give us a list. What books do you want? What do you want to read? And so we try to buy those at the end of every year, as many as we can. We also try to use that for our book vending machine so that the books that are in there are books that they actually want. As part of our behavior program, they can earn Wildcat bucks for good behavior. And so that's another thing that they can buy. If they choose to, they can buy a coin for the book vending machine. They love that. When we do our book fairs, a lot of our kids like the cookbooks, but they're expensive and they can't afford them. So after our book fair is over, we usually buy them and put them in the library so they can check them out. And they'll do like a little contest on, hey, check this out, make your recipe, And so it's just really, my librarians are great at, trying to find something there because there's something in there that they will all read. You just got to figure out what it is that they're really interested in. And so, we do try to encourage that, the love of reading, reading for the sheer pleasure of reading.
Right. And do you find that the best way to inspire that is through selection? You're just like available, like you said, somebody, they can find something that they're interested in, or is it more motivation tactics, trying to, put together programs and rewards, or is it some combination of what have you found in your experience?
I think it's a combination of all of that. Because you have some kids who are just in the library all the time. The kids that are getting in trouble in class because they won't put their library books down. So you have those kids that naturally love to read. And then you have the kids who somewhere along the way, because they struggled with it, they don't like it because it was hard for them. And so, it might be the graphic novels that they're down there reading, but that's okay. They're reading something. And so I think a combination of allowing them to have success in reading and then taking their, because what my 50-year-old self might want to read is not what, 12-year-old teenage boy wants to read. And so taking their ideas and suggestions and trying to keep that library as current and get things that they actually will read.
No, that's good. I like hearing that. Okay. What do you guys do with AI right now? Do you think about that a lot? Have you built a framework around it? Give me some thoughts on that.
We haven't really in my building done that much with it at this point. I don't know that it's something that really up to this point we've really had to deal with that much. It's probably what we're going to need to look at in the future. Because kids are smart. We do a lot of, especially my English classes when they're working on essays and things like that. We still do a lot of it old school. Yes, your final copy is going to be typed up on the computer, but while we're actually writing, we're writing on paper, note card. Really? Yes. So, we try to combat that as much as we can by doing a lot of it, paper, pencil.
That's one way to do it, right?
Yeah, but we do end up at the end. Yes, they do end up on the computer, but that's after they've done some rough drafts on their own.
Yeah, we've confirmed that they've written it with pencil and paper. Yeah. That's good. Okay, cool. Well, we could spend a lot of time talking about this. It's really been fun for me. Maybe we'll go to our future leaning questions and kind of wrap up from here. So give me something that you were nervous about the future of education. I mean, you've been principal there 17 years. You've seen a lot. So what are things happening today that make you a little bit nervous about the future? And then give me something that you're really excited about on the future.
I just feel like the number one thing that really I'm nervous about and worried about is just the attack on public education and teachers and administrators. Mm-hmm. And, like when I graduated college, if you wanted a teaching job, like you really had to work for it and find one. Whereas now it's next to impossible to find a teacher. And so I'm really worried about that.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be, that is challenging. We need amazing teachers and we need lots of them.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Okay. Well, what are you most excited about?
Oh, well, I don't know. So many things. I get on that side of it, but then as soon as I step in, I'm at the school, I'm like, I love it. I love everything about it. So, we're getting ready. Our teachers have to be back August 4th. Our kids come back August 7th. So we're gearing up, for a new year. We've had lots of changes as far as administration for this upcoming year. And so kind of a lot of unknowns, but, it's exciting. And so, you just don't know what's going to happen. So it was an exciting time.
Little excitement for the opportunity that exists in the unknown.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll give you that. That sounds good. Well, I appreciate you taking some time with me today, and hopefully we get a chance to do this again soon.
Yeah.
Learn how we help students by identifying and removing phonological barriers at mindplay.com.